Look, I'm just going to be real with you. Building a business, especially if it's your first time, is definitely not an easy thing to do. And it's not just about the skills and the hard work. It's about completely transforming yourself into a different person. It's about becoming the person who is capable of surviving all the things that are ultimately going to get thrown at you throughout the process. That's what we're covering in this video, but why should you care? Why should you watch this video, right? Well, because every action that you take is going to be filtered through this internal operating system that's comprised of your mindset, your beliefs, how you feel about your own identity, how you perceive yourself, right? And if you don't rebuild this operating system, this perception, you will keep sabotaging yourself over and over again. If you don't believe me when I say that, just take a look at your past 6, 12, 24 months. How many times have you done something that didn't put you in the best position, that weren't with your best interests in mind? How many times did you do something that pulled yourself further back, that didn't improve where you were? The truth is, most successful entrepreneurs didn't just get more lucky or have more skills than most people. They also thought differently. They made decisions differently, and they had very different standards than most people. You can't build your dream life or build your dream business with an employee mindset. You're almost certainly going to fail. By the way, this is the first video in my free series called How to Build an Online Business from Scratch. In this series, I'm walking you step by step on how to go from nothing to building and growing a real online business. And we're starting on how to find the right mentality because everything else depends on it. This video sets the standard for the rest of the series. But let's not waste any time. Let's get right into how to change your thinking, starting with talking about an identity shift. Right now, you are the main constraint of your business, right? You are the main bottleneck. So your business will only grow as much as you do. And you must see yourself as a capable entrepreneur. You need to identify yourself as an entrepreneur, not just someone trying it out, not just someone trying their own thing, trying a business. Oh, I'm just playing around with it. I'm just messing around, just going to see what happens, right? You need to fully commit and make that transformation in your mind of your identity. And your behavior is going to follow that identity, right? Like if you believe that you're inconsistent, then you will act inconsistently. If you believe that you're a lazy person, you will act in a way that a lazy person would act in different scenarios. And you'll do this subconsciously. And in the same way, if you truly believe that you're an entrepreneur and you have something valuable and you're working to improve it and you have something of value to offer to people, then you will act as an entrepreneur that's trying to pursue that goal. So that's why it's really important to lean into this new identity, this transformation that you're making for yourself. And some practical shifts that you can use to do this is you can audit your current self-image. So what current identity are you clinging to? What do you think about yourself? How do you perceive yourself and the things that you do? And then you can define the future version of you. So what would you do daily? Who would you surround yourself with if you were the type person that you want to be? And when you have decisions to make, you start framing them from the perspective of an entrepreneur. I am an entrepreneur. So what would an entrepreneur do in this decision? Now let's talk about the internal locus of control and radical responsibility. Having a strong internal locus of control is believing that you are responsible for outcomes, not luck, not the market, not your niche, not other people, not your mom, not your parents, not who you grew up with, nothing. You are in control of your decisions and you are responsible for the outcomes of those decisions. That's what this means. And having radical responsibility is a subset of that. So that means no excuses. So everything that happens to you is your fault. There's no one else that you can blame. There's no situation you can blame. And if something's not working, it's on you to fix it. And this may seem extreme in practice, but the reason that we do this is because it gives you the control. It gives you the power. Because if you go around saying things like, oh, I'm in the position I'm in this situation because of this or that, or because of the way I was raised, because of where I'm from, whatever it is, then you're giving your power away to change those things. You are basically saying, I'm incapable of getting out of this situation myself on my own accord. So I'm giving my power away to this thing that I'm blaming. And a lot of people do this. And the reason that they do is because they don't want to feel at fault. They don't want to feel like they've failed or made mistakes. And they do this to just kind of self-soothe and make themselves feel more comfortable. But in reality, it's the biggest thing stopping them from growth. This is why most people don't improve very fast, because they don't want to accept the responsibility that they led themselves to where they are in the first place. And the root cause of this is because they aren't emotionally resilient enough. So whenever you're trying to sell something, you're trying to get in business and solve people's problems, the reality is you will get rejected, you will get ignored, you will get ghosted, and you will get criticized by probably most of the people that you know. And you must be resilient enough to be able to make decisions based on logic and not an emotional reaction to the things that are going to happen to you. You have to learn to separate yourself from your results. Treat failure as feedback, as data, not as part of your identity. You should actually frame failure as a good thing, right? Because you're getting feedback on something that you tried and now you're able to improve it and make it better. So we actually want failure. And what can help us be resilient through this is having discipline and understanding delayed gratification. And the reason for that is most people fail because they want and expect quick results. They want a quick win, right? Get rich quick schemes and stuff like that. But in business, the biggest payoffs are often delayed, and they're delayed a lot. So you have to put in a lot of effort before you ever see any returns. And like some examples of this are content takes a long time to rank. So if you're trying to build a personal brand, if you're trying to get customers through content, through organic content, it's going to take a long time for the algorithm to pick up your channel and really kind of understand what you're talking about. Also, relationships take time to bear fruit. So you may have started some conversations, you may have, gotten in the door of some people, but you haven't actually gotten to sell them anything or made any money off them. Haven't gotten a chance to pitch them or, things like that. And offers take time to refine. Your processes take time to refine. Your marketing strategies, your sales process, everything is going to get better and better as you go. So it's going to compound, and it's going to ultimately seem like you put in effort for a very long time and receive no rewards, and then it all kind of snowballs all at one time. And having discipline throughout this is key, right? And discipline is doing the right thing even when you don't feel like it. And you may think like, I'm just saying a word, right? Have discipline, do something whenever you don't want to. But we're going to make it real simple. I didn't say any of this is going to be easy, but I want to make it simple. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to use systems. We're going to have a whole video later on how to use systems to make discipline simple and automatic. And also we're going to talk about how to train yourself to value the process, not just the results. So you're going to be able to enjoy actually doing the work. You're going to get pleasure, enjoyment out of actually doing the work and not just the result from doing the work. And that's going to make this a whole lot easier to actually do what you need to do. Now let's talk a little bit about your social circle, because this does hold a lot of people back. This is the reason a lot of people can't make it. And the reason for that is the people around you will influence your decisions, often in the wrong direction. So a key way to think about this, a key way to reframe this is if they don't have what you want, then their advice is irrelevant to you. So everyone's going to try to give you their advice. You should expect these reactions like subtle discouragement, being like, just be careful. I don't know about this. I know this seems kind of weird. This seems kind of scammy. They're going to have stuff to say like that. Overt criticisms like, this will never work. I don't think you can do that. That doesn't seem logical, blah, 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 things like that. And then if you do succeed, you're probably going to experience some resentment from people that you grew up with or people that you know. And the reason for that, this is normal. The reason for that is about them. It's not about you. It's about their insecurities. It's about them not being satisfied with where they are in life, with their situation, and they don't want it to be their fault. So they start criticizing what you're doing and trying to protect their own feelings to try to keep themselves comfortable. So just protect your mental space, ignore them, limit your exposure to this low standard input. Just try to ignore this as much as possible and disregard it, because it will wear on you. It chips on you piece by piece. And another problem a lot of people starting out have is the way they perceive money. And a lot of people believe that making money or asking for money, selling to people is greedy, it's selfish, you're manipulating them, it's immoral. But the reality is that money is just our representation of value, right? Like back in the day, whenever we had the fisherman who went out and went and fished every day, and then the guy who grew corn, if the fisherman wanted to trade, he would say, hey, look, I'll give you a fish for some corn. And the corn guy would be like, sure. So they would make the trade. That's what we do nowadays. We just use something that's much more efficient, which is called money. And it's an indicator of the value that you've provided. So the fisherman went and fished the fish. That's his skill. That's his trade. That's what he does. And because of the way corporations have developed and stuff, people feel like it's like kind of dirty or kind of slimy to ask people for money. And that's just something that you have to get over, because it's not true. And I'm not saying there are no scams that exist. I'm not saying there are no slimy salesmen or things like that where they'll kind of try to lie or try to manipulate you into a sale. Of course that exists, but it's a very small percentage of the actual market. And usually these people will fail because they don't have any value to deliver. If you're not delivering value, it won't take long for the market to figure it out. Because in a fair market and in a healthy business, every dollar that you earn really represents someone else's problem that you solved. And also something that can help you is that we get stuck into our own perspectives of the things that we do and the things that we buy and how we behave and stuff. But it's also helpful to remember that how much something is worth is relative to the person, right? It's relative to how much they make. So like someone who wants to buy laundry services or like maid services, to someone who's wealthy, that might be really valuable because they want to use their time elsewhere, maybe with their kids or to make money or on their business, whatever it is. To someone who has more time, that might not be as valuable. So whenever you're thinking about what you sell and what other people sell, always remember that the value of something is relative to the person. Because like if you could just simply speak to someone, if you could just have a conversation with someone who's a smoker and they're finally able to quit smoking, that's very, very valuable to them. To you, it was just a conversation. But to them, you solved one of the biggest problems they've ever had in their life. That's worth a lot of money to them. And to someone who doesn't smoke, that's worth basically nothing, right? Like they don't care. They don't need to quit smoking. So you have to understand that to the right person, something can be worth a lot of money, and to someone else, it might be worth nothing, right? And if you want to earn more, the best thing to probably do is to solve bigger problems for more people, or to solve bigger problems for richer people, right? Because they can pay more. And if you get nothing else out of this reframing money segment here, just remember that people spend money on different things for different reasons, and they get more value out of different things than other people. So something that you might not find that valuable, someone else might find very valuable. Next, let's move on to some other traps to avoid, like perfectionism. Perfectionism kills speed and momentum because nothing is ever going to be perfect the first time. You're going to have to iterate. You're going to have to try something, be bad at it, then improve and get better. And eventually you'll iterate and become good, then great, then one of the best at it. And that's the only way you get good at something. But a lot of times perfectionism, like if you're working on a slide deck or if you're working on a web page or something, it's not actually perfectionism. It's actually procrastination, because you're kind of afraid of the next thing that you want to do. You don't know how to do it. Maybe you're procrastinating making a decision about the next thing that you want to do. And it's actually kind of like a combined perfectionist / procrastinating problem. And then imposter syndrome. Look, everyone feels this. It's a sign that you're trying something new, that you're doing something that you haven't done before. And everyone's going to feel this, I'm not supposed to be doing this. I'm not good enough for this. Everyone feels that. It's completely normal. Don't worry about it. If it keeps coming back up, just remind yourself that everyone had to go through this process. And then a fear of judgment. The truth is, look, most people just don't actually care about you as much as you think they do. They just don't. They're worried about themselves. In most people's minds, you're like a character that they have a relationship with, and they basically have like your name, what you look like, and then like a few bullet points about you in your head, and that's it. Like they don't really care that much. And a lot, like everyone always thinks that everyone's always thinking about them. They're not, I promise. They're thinking about themselves. And then shiny object syndrome. This kills everyone. I think every entrepreneur experiences this. I think they experience this one probably the most. And the reason is it's really the Dunning-Kruger effect, where you don't know a lot about a topic or something or skill, something, and you learn a little bit about it, which gives you this ultra high confidence, being like, oh, I really know what I'm doing now. And then you start learning a little more and you start failing a little bit, and you realize that you don't know nearly as much as you thought you did, and you go down to like the valley of despair. We'll talk about this in another video too. But what happens is that whenever you go down to this valley of despair, you want to try something new because you're like, oh, this is hard. I'm not that good at this. And you start making all these excuses to actually stick with it and get better at it. And then you start something new and you go through the same process. And then you just keep starting over and over and over again. And this is always a problem with entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurs love new things. They love innovation. And it's just something that you really have to try to avoid. You have to try to keep in check as much as possible. And why this matters for the rest of the series, because every strategy in the following videos relies on you being able to execute consistently and to avoid self-sabotage. And if you don't master this, then every tactic and every system that we set up, every idea that we talk about is eventually going to fail. And for every video in this series, I'm going to be giving you a set of action steps. I highly encourage you to do each one of them. The first one here is to write down how you perceive yourself in a few sentences. So this is your current identity. Then write the future version of you who already has what you want, so who you want to become. What would you be doing every day? What would you have accomplished? What sacrifices would you have made? Who would you surround yourself with? Or just some questions that you could ask yourself to help you do this. Think about advice you've been given recently from people who don't have what you want, and remind yourself that stuff like this is irrelevant. And whenever you hear more advice like this later on, always remind yourself, just disregard it. It's irrelevant. Don't worry about what they have to say. Also, start replacing why is this happening to me to how can I fix this? How can I take action to improve this? How can I get out of this situation? And then work on reframing money and value. So first, list 3 ways that you've personally provided value to others that has made their life better. And everyone watching this video has this, and they can list 3 ways they've done this. Then brainstorm things that may be valuable to someone who is much wealthier than you. Then brainstorm things that may be valuable to someone who is much poorer than you. And use this to kind of brainstorm how you can implement this in your own offer and in your own services. Making these adjustments in mentality is not only necessary, it also determines how long it's going to take you to see results. So that's why I made this the first video in this series. But if you had to bet on one skill to get you paid in the next 30 days, what would it be? And how would you be able to learn it quickly? That's what we're going to talk about next. So stick around if you want help with that. And if you want my personal help to make this transformation, I am taking free one-on-one calls right now. You can also join my community on School and reach me there. So check out the links below if you're interested. But besides that, I hope this helped, and I'll catch you soon.